Hello and welcome to our dissection of the cervical plexus. At a first glance, this piece of anatomy can seem daunting, but I'm here today to try and offer you a simplistic approach that with repetition will enable you to master clinical applications. Before we begin, please consider hitting the like and the subscribe to see more anatomy videos made easy. Okay, so here we go. I've sketched out the cervical nerve roots and thrown in the hypoglossal nerve, which is cranial nerve 12, and the accessory nerve, which is cranial nerve 11, as these do feature as part of the cervical plexus. First, we will look at cervical root C1. Please take note that I've drawn this in red so we can follow its journey and the branches it contributes to. As the C1 root emerges, it picks up fibres from the hypoglossal nerve, cranial nerve 12, and forms nerves to the geniohyoid and the thyrohyoid muscles of the anterior neck. But it also forms another branch that eventually combines with fibres from cervical root 2. On the way, 4 smaller branches are given off. One communicates with the vagus nerve, whilst 3 others go on to innervate the rectus capitis lateralis, the longus capitis, and the rectus capitis anterior. This happens before it picks up C2 fibres. C1's final branch goes to form the superior loop of the Ansa Cervalis, but before the loop begins, some fibres leave to form the nerve that innervates the superior belly of the omohyoid muscle. The remaining C1 nerve fibres continue to join C2 fibres and C3 fibres that have formed the inferior loop of the Ansa Cervalis. Together, these 3 nerve roots form the nerves to the sternothyroid, the sternohyoid, and the inferior belly of the omohyoid muscle. C2 also gives off another branch to join the C3 root. These sensory fibres combine to form 3 nerves. One which innervates the skin on the anterior cervical region, known as the transverse cervical nerve. And 2 other cutaneous nerves, the greater auricular nerve and the lesser occipital nerve, both which innervate the skin behind the ear and at the back of the head. C2 also gives off a contributory branch to the accessory nerve, as does the cervical root 3. A branch from C3 combines with fibres from C4 and produces the supraclavicular nerve, which provides sensation over the superior clavicle and the proximal chest area. Another branch from C3 combines with fibres from C4 and C5 to form the phrenic nerve. The phrenic nerve acts to innervate the diaphragm. C4 also contributes to the accessory nerve. Nerve roots C2, C3, and C4 also branch to innervate the longus capitis and the longus colli muscles within the neck. Additionally, C3 and C4 provide fibres for the scalene and the levator scapulae muscles. This forms our final branch of the cervical plexus. So now let's look at summarising. The hypoglossal nerve, cranial nerve 12, and the C1 root nerve combine to form the geniohyoid and the thyrohyoid nerve. Cervical 1 nerve root on its own forms 5 nerves. Communication to the vagus nerve, the nerve that innervates the rectus capitis lateralis, the nerve to the longus capitis, the nerve to the rectus capitis anterior, and the nerve that forms the superior loop of the Ansa Cervalis, which in turn produces the nerve that innervates the superior belly of the omohyoid muscle. Nerve roots C1, C2 and C3 combine to form the inferior loop of the Ansa Cervalis. 3 branches are given off of the inferior loop. These are the sternothyroid branch, the sternohyoid branch, and the branch that innervates the inferior belly of the omohyoid. C2 and C3 combine to form cutaneous nerves. These are the transverse cervical nerve, which innervates the skin on the anterior neck, the greater auricular nerve, and the lesser occipital nerve. Both of these innervate the skin behind the ear and towards the back of the head. C2, C3 and C4 all contribute to the accessory nerve, that's cranial nerve 11,